Hey, this is Justin, and I'm here with Nick Soman from LikeBright, and we're going to chat about his pretty incredible experiment using Mechanical Turk to do customer interviews. So, Nick, what was your goal for doing this experiment?
So we had a really interesting challenge. This was when I was in the process of applying at Techstars Seattle for the 2011 class, Go Techstars. And Andy Sack, who runs that program, had really leveled the challenge at me. He basically said, we're not going to let you in because we don't think you understand your customer well enough. And I said, man, that's hard feedback to hear. And he said, go talk to 100 women and figure out what their challenges are related to dating, and then come back to me when you feel like you've got a handle on that question.
Nice.
And, I first heard it, and I probably thought, I don't think that we have a really good way to do this, especially, going out on the street and just meeting women and getting them to talk to me about dating. It seemed like that would be a really tough endeavor, especially if you do that at scale and get to 100 people. I learned that when Andy asks for something, you kind of do what he asks for and find a way. And so,
well, let me ask you real quick. You know 100 women, I'm sure. Why not just go talk to 100 women that you know?
It's a good question, and I think that there's two reasons for that. This is a problem that all startups face. One, you don't want to burn your bridges with your friends immediately right away when you're just coming up with your idea by sort of pestering all of them and saying, oh, God, I get you on the phone. There's actually three reasons. The second one is that it takes too long. It's sort of setting up those calls, coordinating. You're not going to be able to get them back to back, and so you have to call somebody when they're available, and it can take 2 weeks to talk to all 100 people. And then the third one is the problem of bias. It can be really difficult to get good answers on what people are interested in when mostly they love you and they want to tell you what you think. So I knew we needed to do something that didn't involve my friends.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah. Okay, so got to talk to 100 people. Andy says jump. You say how high?
He says 100 single women. And he basically says you've got 2 days to do it. And,
so there's your startup. If you can find 100 single women in 2 days, that's the startup right there, right?
Yeah, well, that's thankfully this is tied directly into what I do these days. But we can find a lot more than that now that we've got the tools to do it. But back then, all we had was a dollar and a drink and Mechanical Turk, and that's ultimately the decision that we made was, we'd looked at mTurk before, and I think any sort of veteran startup person knows that Mechanical Turk is a great service that Amazon runs. It lets you put out basic tasks to a large group of people who are willing to do them for a small amount of money. And so traditionally it's used for picture sorting, which of these pictures has a blue square in it or a I'm a owner of a dating site. I don't talk about this. Absolutely. And then the other thing is, surveys. And everybody sort of, I think there's good mixed opinions on whether you can do good surveys on Mechanical Turk. Some would say that creates bias and it's hard to get good information out of surveys. I thought, there are at least 100 single women on Mechanical Turk, and there's a great chance that since they're hanging out doing little work for money anyway, they might be willing to chat with me about their dating experience, which thankfully is something that really interests a lot of people. Now, I'd done some background research, and I realized that, contrary to popular belief, Mechanical Turk workers are on average more educated than the average U.S. population. And so a lot of people think, well, we're not going to go on there because I might not have a great cross-section of America, or maybe I'll be talking to people who aren't what I want to market towards. These can often be really smart people who would otherwise be doing Sudoku or a crossword puzzle, and they're making a little bit of cash. And what we found is, they had a huge appetite to talk about their dating experience. And specifically what we did, I said of Mechanical Turk what's called a HIT, which is a project that you want people to do on Mechanical Turk.
Okay.
And I said, I think I want 100 single women to do this. They have to be in the United States.
Okay.
And I went on Google Voice, which will allow you to create phone numbers and link them to your cell phone. The reason I did that is because I didn't want to put out my and my friends' real cell phone information to people that I just didn't know.
Right.
But Google Voice allowed us to create 4 or 5 free cell phone numbers that we could link to our real cell phones. We could just single use for this project. I recruited 5 friends to come over, and we set up a phone tree. So we had these Google Voice phone numbers. We had 5 in a row, and we said, we want to talk about your dating experience. We only want 10 minutes of your time.
Okay.
And I think we gave people $2 for, talking to us for 10 minutes about dating. A really good thing to do with Mechanical Turk is you test the price point. You sort of put something out. If you're getting too much demand, cancel it, put it out at a lower price, and do it again. And you can find your point of equilibrium when you're getting the number of calls that you need. And then we said, call this number. We made sure to tell people, here's how to hit star or whatever to mask the number you're calling from, so we don't have their real number either, which is good to do to make sure you don't get in trouble.
Yeah.
If that number's busy, call this next one. And I was blown away by 2 things. One, people's willingness to share, it just made me feel forever indebted to Mechanical Turk. I used to work at Amazon. I think it's one of their best products. Not only were we able to get people on the line, but we'd ask for 10 minutes of their time, 5 minutes of their time, and we were routinely running 15, 20 minutes. We were going, God, this is really interesting, man. I actually need to get off the phone now. Because people have an appetite to talk about this stuff. And I thought, that's when it clicked for me that when you're really asking open questions, you can get great feedback that way. The way we set it up so that we couldn't be scammed is, we give people a password at the end of the call if it was a good call, and we give them a different password if they didn't meet our requirements or we felt like they were just trying to kind of scam us and hadn't actually tried dating services or the other stuff we put in the project as a qualifier. And that allowed us to only pay the people who really delivered value to the site. But by virtue of doing that with a few friends, easily able to talk to 100 people. I think we did it in 4-hour period in one evening.
Wow.
And better yet, we really understood our customer better. We started figuring out that not only was Andy right, but we came back with a much better idea of what the challenges were.
Wow.
Definitely recommend mTurk is a great way to answer that age-old startup problem. I need feedback and I don't know where to get it, and I don't know how to get it fast, and get rid of the bias too.
That's great. Okay, so just to summarize and make sure I understand, instead of going out down to the bar and trying to find 100 single women there with a little clipboard and making awkward interviews, you essentially put an ad up on the internet and said, "Hey, ladies, meeting some sort of age requirements, I imagine,
and who tried dating services before, who were single,
single. Okay, I'm going to pay you $2 to chat with me on the phone. Call one of these 5 numbers, which you set up using Google Voice. They would ring you up, and then you would ask them questions. I want to ask you what type of questions, just a little bit. But
Sure.
So you're going to ask them some questions, and then afterwards you say if it's a good call, as in they met your demographic criteria, not whether they liked it or not. It didn't really matter whether they liked your product. And afterwards you'd say, okay, hey, if this person met my criteria, enter the word superfood in your little mechanical.
Actually, our password was LikeBright.com. That's LikeBright.com. And we were surprised that a decent number of them went on and tried the website after. And you are not allowed to market on Mechanical Turk, so don't tell them that I did that.
That's fine.
But you are allowed to give people whatever password you want.
I see. Well, it just was going to be strong and had to have a capital and lowercase and some punctuation. You're just making a strong password.
That's all I was doing. And the other thing, my fiance is lovely and wonderful to talk to. And this is the first time in history, and I've probably done 1,000 Mechanical Turk hits now. I'm just a big believer in this as a place to get information. I've never seen a specific Mechanical Turk worker write in to say how nice it was to do this project. And this woman writes in from Kansas and said, I just want to reiterate that it was a real pleasure to talk to Anna. This is somebody who my fiancé had talked to for 20 minutes on the phone, and she didn't want to go. There are people out there that just would love to give you great feedback, and they're just waiting for you to figure out a way to get access.
Right.
So I think that's
interesting. So, I wonder if this isn't even so much about the $2. It's about, someone to talk to and someone to help. And anyway, so there's something there. Okay, so then once they enter the passcode, then boom, if they've got the right passcode, you go and then you give them $2. But if they called you up and they were Joe, a boy Joe, then they get some other password, which is I didn't meet the requirements to enter that in, and then you'll say something.
Or you can be civil to them and say, hey, I don't really think you're the right person for this call, so you don't waste their time either. But we might have had 3 people call in the whole time that had that modus operandi. Like I was very impressed by the quality of the calls that they had. The other trick, you asked about the kind of questions that we asked. I have found that it's incredibly important to ask, to be thoughtful about the questions that you do ask, and to ask open questions where the response that you want isn't super clear to people. One of the challenges you and I have talked about surveys, if you say, we're going to build a website that it's a new dating service that uses proprietary push technology and social referrals to deliver dates directly to the 90% of people who are single and haven't used online dating, for example.
Hypothetically.
And then you say, is that a good idea? And people go, yeah, I'm talking to you. You're going to think I'm a jerk if I say no. And that doesn't work in surveys. What works better for surveys or phone calls is you sort of say, write the first 3 or 4 things that come to mind when you think about dating, or what are the top 3 challenges you faced, or what are the top 3 opportunities that you see, and just try to get a sense, get people's brains really engaged, because you'll get better answers and won't bias the question.
Okay, so I call you up. Hey, I saw this Mechanical Turk thing about dating.
So let's do a little run through it.
Yeah,
First, I qualify you. So even though I've asked a mechanical Turk kid, I say, okay, well, are you female? And you say yes. And I say, how old are you? And you give me an age. And at any point in this process, I need to be willing to say, you don't really meet the criteria that we gave, so I don't think this is the right phone call. It's incredibly important to pre-qualify your feedback providers. And as ideally as possible, you want them to be the same people who might ultimately buy your product.
Interesting. Okay. So I called up.
I like that you say interesting, and your blog on customer development is the best customer development blog I've read, ladies and gentlemen. This guy knows what he's talking about.
All right.
I'm glad you think it's interesting. I hope they think it's interesting.
Maybe next time you use the password customerdevlabs.com. Okay, so
a little harder to remember than LikeBright.com. we can consider it.
All right, so maybe this doesn't matter at all. My hunch is it doesn't, but it says you're looking for 25 to 35. I'm 39. I call up. You ask, hey, how old are you? 35. Do you care?
If you're willing to say you're 35 and you come with really good answers to the questions, I guess I care. I hope that you won't lie to me, and generally you won't. We just found that people are pretty honest. I'm going to answer that question a little bit differently, which is, to the extent that it's possible to know, you really do want to validate and say, those aren't the right people for me to be talking to. Hey, you know what? It's just an extra $2. I'm going to go find the right person.
I see.
But the questions we were asking were open enough that if you were 39 and you gave us, really good copy and good answers, we'd take it.
Gotcha. Okay, so you've qualified me, and then what's next?
This is traditional in most kind of meetings. You're going to get a better outcome if you soften it up a little bit first and just get them a chance to get to know you. I'd say, always introduce yourself. My parents are doctors, and a little-known trick in the doctor community is if you want your patient satisfaction scores to skyrocket, freaking introduce yourself at the beginning of meetings, at the beginning of your appointments. I'm Dr. Such and Such, and I'm here to help you with so-and-so. So many doctors forget to do that. I think business people sometimes forget that. We're so fixated on getting to the thing that we desire that you forget to be basically human. So I get on the phone and I say, I'm Nick, I'm from Seattle, I'm doing this cool thing, I think it's pretty neat, and I wanted to talk to you because blank. And really get them into the mission of helping you figure out, what's going to be a valuable product for them and the people that they know, and then really ask open-ended questions and make it about them. I think that's the trick, The temptation is to go, this is my product, and put it in front of them right away and make them say something about it. You can get to that point, but we weren't close to there when we did this. Instead, we needed to understand, how are we going to build a product that's going to be meaningful? To get to that, we needed to say more things like, are you single? Tell me about your dating experience. Tell me about the last date that you went on. Try to get them telling the stories of their lives, because I think that if you ask for direct answers to questions about what business should I build, the feedback you get is actually going to be less interesting than if you let people tell you their stories and then you listen for where the pain points are.
Sure.
So we just tried to make it really casual, and I would even say we had fun with some of the callers.
Nice. So so someone calls up, and then you're going to say, hey, I'm Nick from Seattle, and I'm working on this really cool thing. And is that really cool thing that follows that I'm working on a really cool dating site, or is it I'm trying to make dating, easier for fill in the blank?
It's the second one. It's the second one, because as soon as you start talking about the frame for your product, all these misconceptions or preconceptions kind of come in people's heads. Probably it'd be even better if I just said, hey, I'm Nick from Seattle, and I wanted to talk to you about your dating experience. They don't need to know that I think what we're doing is cool. I tend to talk about stuff I'm excited about, but really the key, again, is to make the call about them. And you'll just learn a lot more if you do that.
So we've launched some open-ended questions to these folks, and we've got their answers now. What do we do with a bunch of, 100 conversations from a bunch of different women about their dating experience?
So I think this is one of the benefits of doing this with a group of people who you know and trust. I honestly think the best thing to do is first you sit down and you talk about it. You talk about, are there themes that we heard here? And some of the really good insight that comes from these sections is when you talk to, 4 or 5 people that you did it with, and you go, oh man, we all heard that story of the woman who was hesitant to try online dating because one of her friends had a bad experience. That's interesting. There's something there. And that gives you clues of what you might want to look for when you do code the data, and I think it is important to do that. Somebody who's probably the project owner has to go down through the notes that everybody took, and it is important to take some notes, and just look for themes. And, the way that I like to do this is I'll notice that anxiety to the person I meet might turn out to be a weirdo. Comes up in a lot of the answers. So I say, okay, I'm going to look specifically for that theme. It's going to take a little bit of time, but if I only did 100 interviews, it's going to take me maybe 2 minutes to go through the whole list and go, okay, this one's got that, and this one's got that, this one's got that. If you identify the top 5 themes that are coming up again and again, which again is easier to do after a discussion, you're a long part of the way there to understanding the problems that really matter to people versus the stuff that might not matter as much.
Right. All right. So you sort of, by having a group of people do this, you synthesize it within each person, and then you can kind of like, go through each one, top 3 things you heard over and over again, and then you can kind of combine that, get a sense for the overall themes, and then you as the project owner can kind of go back and look for anything that might have also been connecting the dots between the different individual parties.
That's right. And one of the greatest things about that is that you end up getting buy-in from people who thought they were just helping you out for an evening. And I still get together with the same friends that I did this with, and they go, well, how's a startup going? Well, how did you address the problem of this that we all talked about? Nice. You start getting a 2-for-1, because not only did you get that good data, but you have some more advocates for your product. They want to see it take off.
Right.
I just think it's a great way to build some community early on.
Yeah, for sure. Some evangelists. Yeah, well, speaking of which, evangelists is, I know, another thing that people look for during the interview process. Did you end up finding some people, maybe like the woman who said, like, this is so great? Did you find some of them to be evangelists?
We really did, but at the stage that we were at, we realized we had to do more listening than talking.
I see.
And so the type of evangelism we got was, at the end of the call, I always made sure to thank them for their time, which is really important. These people are ultimately helping you out.
Okay.
And say, just in case you're interested, here's what we're building. And if they'd mentioned something in the phone call, like, I don't like online dating because it's a creepy grab bag full of strangers, then I might pitch my business to them a little bit with regard to how I can fix that problem. And we got some great sound bites, oh, God, that sounds so good for me, or, my daughter is starting to date now, and I'm going to tell her all about this. Of course, we turned around, fed those sound bites to Andy, and, as I told you when the camera wasn't running, he later told me that that's what got us into Techstars. So, you'll find some great quotes, but the real key is to listen, and you may well, we've all had this experience here. You're pretty far off base in what you believed about this.
Sure.
Feedback is a gift, and that means that getting feedback quickly and at scale is like a mass gift. Sometimes you find out that you were totally wrong. Yeah. Here's the good news. You spent one night doing that, come back and attack it again 2 nights later when you've had some time to synthesize. Your hypothesis will probably be better.
Right. Okay, so you invested 100 times $2.
Yep.
My math, I'm pretty sure it's $200. Maybe some pizza or something for your phone calls. Yeah.
Exactly.
So maybe another $40-50.
Yep.
In 4 hours.
Yep.
$250 in 4 hours to talk to 100 people.
Yep.
Where were you at before the phone calls, and where were you at after the phone calls?
Before the phone calls, we were not in Techstars. After the phone calls, we were in Techstars, which comes with a
Done.
Now these days, $118,000 investment.
Right.
You do the math. But I think more importantly, or not, the value of the insight we got meant that we were building something that we had a feeling people might use, and we weren't too close to that earlier on. We had an idea that online dating was messed up and that it scared some people. We didn't totally understand why. Andy was right, he usually is. And I'm glad to listen to him.
Nice, fantastic. Okay, so now that you've done this experiment, have you gone back to use Mechanical Turk again? And if so, how?
Yeah. No, we use it constantly. It's been a little while since I've done a true phone tree.
Okay.
I think you can also do phone tree for product walkthroughs if you wanted to do it that way. You can search with people at the beginning of what you built. I just look to it now anytime that I need large-scale feedback. I think one of the places where a variant of a survey can work is, if you want to ask really hard questions you think are going to prove or disprove your hypotheses, that may be a little bit difficult. But if you want to say, do you like this logo to be blue or red? Here's the blue and here's the red. It's an amazing way, unbeatable way to get feedback for 5 cents a pop, 10 cents a pop, that might otherwise save you time. I mean, your scarce resource, and I believe this in life, not only in startups, is your time. And Mechanical Turk is a great way to maximize it.
Yeah.
So as you always end up with a marketing pop, we always see 20, 50 signups after I do one of these things.
Yeah.
Take a chance to pitch your business. Give people a sentence or two at the end.
It turns out your name is also in your logo. So when you test your logo, you may also be driving a little bit of traffic.
That's right. You see, LikeBright. Like isn't she likes you and Bright isn't smart, don't forget. it's not marketing, but it's bringing awareness to something that people might want.
Terrific, awesome. Well, another bonus of doing this interview and sharing your insight is that everyone on Customer Dev Labs, and there's a flood of traffic. Be careful. Get
I
your
love
service
Customer
up
Dev
running.
Labs. We
It's
are
gonna
ready
go
to go.
crazy.
Richard, are you ready for this?
Stock up. All 100 subscribers. You're going to rush to LikeBright.com.
That's right.
Check it out. It really is an amazing site, and Nick is an amazing person with some really great experience in this space. So
Thanks for bringing
much
it in, man. This is fun.
It's fun.
Yeah.
All right.